Check out this monster handheld gimbal from Zhiyun Tech. It's their latest and greatest mirrorless camera stabilizer, the Crane 2. If the name sounds familiar, the Crane 2 is the true successor of Zhiyun's line of crane gimbals, not to be confused with the Crane V2, which was a slightly modified version of the original Crane. So let's take a look at what's new with the upgraded model and stack it up against its predecessor. Side by side, the Crane 2 is a much larger and heavier gimbal than either of the iterations of the original Crane, and for good reason. It's one of the first handheld gimbals for mirrorless cameras that we've seen with a max payload of 3,200 grams, or just over 7 pounds. That's nearly twice what the previous version could handle for heavier setups and beefier lenses. According to Zhiyun, in order to support that weight, they've increased the motor torque 50% and at the same time reduced motor noise by 20%. Both the Crane 2 and Crane V2 are constructed of mostly metal, with the exception of the plastic onboard control keys and the follow focus dial on the Crane 2. The Crane 2 is thicker and heavier, of course, weighing in at 3.4 pounds, or about a full pound heavier than the Crane V2. So what's new on the gimbal is the inclusion of a follow focus knob and OLED settings display, which lets you monitor the modes, change camera and gimbal settings, and check battery level, right on the gimbal. That's a huge benefit since it takes the guesswork out of figuring out which mode you're currently in and how much shooting time you have left before you need to charge up the batteries. The number of batteries has been increased from 2 to 3, and the Crane 2 switches over to 18650 lithium-ion batteries rather than the flat-top 26500 of the Crane V2. With the Crane 2, you get 50% more runtime for a whopping 18 hours of use on a full charge, perfect for all-day filming. Another useful addition to the Crane 2 is the use of a standard plate that's compatible with Manfrotto quick release systems, allowing you to quickly swap from stabilizer to a tripod without changing plates. Now let's talk about the new follow focus wheel. To our knowledge, this is the first gimbal with an integrated follow focus control, and while that's pretty exciting, it's important to note that as of right now, it's only compatible with Canon EOS cameras like the 5D Mark IV. However, Zhiyun can potentially expand that capability through future firmware updates, and we hope that they do. Other features restricted to Canon cameras only include changing camera settings like ISO, aperture, and exposure. But all is not lost if you're a Sony or Panasonic camera user. The gimbal comes with 3 types of control cables for Canon, Sony, and Panasonic. And with the control cable, Sony users can still take photos, record video, and control optical zoom with the onboard controls, while Panasonic users will be limited to taking photos and video. Sony cameras can also take advantage of USB charging via the control cable while the gimbal is in operation. Performance-wise, the Crane 2 is faster, more stable, and even smoother than the earlier Crane. The Crane 2 has the same 3 modes of operation as the original Crane and Crane V2: pan follow, locked, and follow. Also, you can use the same app for all of Zhiyun's gimbals for remote control. The inclusion of the mini tripod makes initial balancing and finding a place to set your gimbal down really easy, and that plus all the other accessories fit neatly into the included rugged carrying case. Overall, the improvements for this newer model were really well thought out, from the convenience of the OLED screen to the slow power down so your lens doesn't come crashing down when you turn the gimbal off. At its retail price of $749, it's still affordable for a hobby filmmaker, and it's designed robust enough to be used by professionals as well.